Hello everyone, my name is Cherie and today I'm here to do my fall reading wrap up. So I'll be wrapping up the books that I read in September, October, and November. So back in September, I had a plan. I had planned to participate in Bookish September, but that did not go so well for me. I ended up reading 2 books during that month, and I think only one of them was on my TBR. And the book that I read that was on my TBR is Falling Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. So this is the first book in a young adult fantasy series. It follows the people that are in 3 different kingdoms in the world called Mystica. And the kingdoms are Uranus, Limaris, and Pelsia. It was an entertaining read and the characters are pretty interesting. They're not great characters. They're interesting enough for me to want to know their story, but I'm not in love with any of them. But they are interesting enough for me to want to continue on this series. I think I ended up giving this first book a 3.5 out of 5. The next book I read was The Winter's Curse by Marie Witkowski. This is another young adult fantasy novel, and it's the first book in a trilogy, I think. This is a story of a girl who has the option to either join the military or get married. And one day she happens upon a slave auction and she accidentally buys a slave. Now, I know a lot of people love this book. I remember after reading this book, I went to YouTube and I think I might have found one person say something negative about this book. Well, I'm probably the second because I did not like this book. This book was definitely not for me. I like the writing and the cover is beautiful. That's the only good thing I can say about this book. I didn't like the characters. I wasn't a big fan of the story. I was kind of bored while reading it, and this book just, I don't remember what rating I gave this book. Possibly a 2 out of 5. I have no idea, but I will not be continuing on with this trilogy. So those are books I read in September, and I can very quickly go through the books I read in October because that number is 0. I did not finish any book in October. October, I pretty much just watched scary movies. I had started a few books in October, but I did not finish any of them. But there are a couple books I started in October and I ended up finishing in November. And the first one I finished was Night Film by Marisha Pessel. I actually did a review on this book and I'll leave a link in the description box below if you want to go ahead and check that out. This is a psychological thriller and it follows a journalist who decides to investigate the death of this iconic director's daughter. I go more in depth of this book in my review, but I will tell you I love this book. I thought it was great and I ended up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. The other book I started in October but finished in November is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. This is another book that I loved. It is a middle grade memoir and it tells the tale of Jacqueline Woodson, and we learn who she is, we learn about her family, we learn about her and how she became the person she is now. We learn about how she found her love for writing. It follows her life in the 60s and 70s and growing up in both the North and the South. And as I said, this is another book I loved. I really liked it. I think this was my first book of prose, so that's something I might start looking more into. But I really enjoyed it. I think I either gave this a 4 or 4.5 out of 5. After I finished those, I decided to reread the Hunger Games trilogy because the last movie was coming out and I wanted to dip back into that world before watching that movie. So I read The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, all by Suzanne Collins. I reread them. I still really like these books. The next book I have here I read during my Thanksgiving break. Now, I ended up doing a video where I wanted to talk about the books I wanted to read during Thanksgiving break, and I was going to give myself a little reading challenge. Well, I have a confession. I didn't read any of those books. Well, I started The Turner House. There's that. I started that book, but I do have some books here that I read during my Thanksgiving break. The first book I have is Wolf by Wolf by Ryan Growden. I ended up reading this and I loved it. I really like this book, and Ryan Growden, she is going to be an auto-buy author for me because I read The Wall City earlier this year and I really liked that book. I really liked that book a lot. I think I liked Wolf by Wolf better. So this book, I don't want to go too in depth with it because I do want to do a review on this book. Pretty much is set in an alternative universe if Hitler was in power, and there is a motorcycle race every year, and our main protagonist wants to win the race, get an audience with Hitler, and kill him. I believe it's the first book in a duology. As I was reading it, I figured there was going to be another book or 2, so I'm very interested to see that, but I think I gave this book a 4.5, 4.75 out of 5. Not quite a 5, but I still loved it. The next one I read is a graphic novel, and it's actually my first graphic novel, and that is Monster by Walter D. Myers, and it was adapted by Guy A. Sims. I remember this book from forever ago, but I don't remember ever reading it. So when I saw the graphic novel, I said, you know what, just pick it up and read it. And honestly, I fell through it. I really did enjoy the story. I enjoyed the pictures that went with the story, and it was very powerful during some of those pages. This is about a kid who is on trial. He is on trial for a robbery and a murder, and it tells the story during the trial and what it's like for him to be in jail waiting to go back to court, and you get to see his visitation with his parents. I just really like this story, and I thought it was done well as a graphic novel. I will say the ending felt a little too quick for me, but I still really enjoyed this story, and I think I ended up giving it like a 4 out of 5. And for the last book I read, I did end up completing one of the challenges I had for my Thanksgiving break TBR to move forward in a series, but I did not read the book that I picked out for that challenge. I ended up reading Rebel Springs by Morgan Rose, the second book in the Fallen Kingdom series. This continued the crazy stories of the people in Minica, and more things happen here. More people die. I did like the ending, and I will say I didn't really care about the people who died this time. In the first book, I did care about one of the people that died because I feel like, I talked about this in my Star Wars book tag, I feel like that person could have been my favorite character in the entire series. I also still don't care about Magnus. I don't care about him. I really don't. I think a lot of people love him, and I don't understand why yet. Maybe when I get to the third book, I will get it. But now I still don't care about him. Not at all. Not even a little bit. But I continue to enjoy these books I'm giving this series. I think I'm still giving the series a 3.5 out of 5. So those are books I read for fall. I have no idea what I'm going to read in December and winter yet, but I will pick out something soon. If you have any suggestions for me to read, any books you think I should pick up, let me know in the comments down below. I am definitely up for suggestions. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!